Since it's getting cold out, I've had a craving for Bolognese pasta, but I decided to see, does this work as a baked pasta dish? So whenever it starts to get cold out, I really get that craving for Bolognese, and lately I've been making a lot of baked pastas on this channel, so I decided let's see what happens when we combine the two of those. We're going to start always the same way here. We're going to use this meatloaf mix that I get from my grocery store. It's pork, veal, and beef. It works fantastic. And then carrot, onion, and celery. If you want, you could throw this all into a food processor and make it into this kind of like fine paste, but I like to cut it into a really fine dice. I think it gives a better consistency. The celery, I'm not going to use a ton of, especially when you put that in a food processor. It gets very fibrous and I think ruins the texture of the dish. So just try to cut this into a very nice fine dice. Consistent sizes on all three. Should be good to go. About equal parts carrot and onion, and then a little less celery, in my opinion. And now we're going to start cooking this. We're going to sweat down these onions first, a little bit of salt, olive oil, get them translucent, and then throw in that celery and carrot. Let that cook for 5-10 minutes. I'm not going to give you the full walkthrough here. If you want to see my full Bolognese video, I'll link that below, but this is just kind of a quick walkthrough. We have some peeled San Marzano tomatoes. I like the peeled ones, and then just get in there with your hands, crush them, make your own kind of tomato sauce here. You can get the texture you want by how finely you kind of crush these up with your hands, but that's what I'm looking for there. In the past, when making smaller batches, I would normally just move these veggies over to the side and put the meat in, and there would be plenty of surface area to brown it up. But I'm doing a larger portion right now, so I'm going to take all those veggies out and then add that meat directly in. I'm going to just push it down a little bit so it gets maximum surface area, and you want to just let this brown, add a little salt, add a little pepper, and then I'm going to come in with one of those meat mashers, and we're just going to break this up into little pieces. That way it breaks that into your sauce nicely. If you want to keep it large and chunky, that's also totally fine, but I'm going to go to fairly small bite-sized pieces. That's what I'm looking for right there. And then normally there's a bit of extra grease from all that meat, so I like to just throw a paper towel in there, soak a little bit of it up, add those veggies back in, add in a little bit of garlic, a splash of white wine. Let that cook down for 3 to 5 minutes. You're good to go at that point with your base layers. We're going to now add in tomato paste. This is about 2 tablespoons. I'm doing a speed run here, I know. Keep up. Mix that together. Really get it nice and coated. Once you have it evenly coated like this, that's what you're looking for. You see a little bit of red everywhere. You don't need to cook this down too heavily, but throw those tomatoes right in at that point. Add a little bit of water from rinsing out your tomato can, and then we're just going to mix that up evenly and add in a bunch of stock. As you see, I have my stock back there. It's been warming up. This is beef stock. You could use any kind of stock, really. Chicken stock, beef stock. It'll all lead to a very good result. This is honestly probably not even the best use of a homemade stock. You're not going to cook this down into like a beautiful pan sauce and really get that gelatin luxurious mouthfeel, but it's totally fine. Throw it in there, let that come up to a simmer, and then we're going to throw the lid on this, bring it down really, really low temperature wise so there's just a little bit of it cooking, and let that cook for about an hour. That's as low as I wanted it. With the lid on, it'll kind of hold back some of that reduction, but you see plenty of liquid reduced out. That's what I'm looking for, and we're going to add in about 1/4 of a cup of milk here. I like to do it more by color, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, but it's around 1/4 of a cup. Now we're going to let that cook for about 1 more hour. Same temperature overall. It's probably somewhere between low and medium. You definitely don't want it boiling. You want a little light simmer. At this point, you should also get a pot that could hold around 1 pound of like a ziti or rigatoni based pasta up and boiling. That'll take a little bit, and then here we are 45 minutes after we added that milk. Good to go, basically. I'm going to add in a touch of cream, but you don't need to do this if you don't want to. Once I add the cream in, I'm also going to drop the pasta. I'm going to cook it for like 7 minutes, which is 3/4 of the way to it being al dente. This is also a great time to test your sauce. Make sure you have it seasoned well. I added a little white pepper and a little bit of salt. And once you do that, let it sit until that pasta is ready. And now we're ready to start putting this all together into a baked dish. There's that pasta. It's still relatively hard, but that'll continue to cook in the oven. First thing I'm going to do is add about 1 tablespoon of butter. I find that the buttered pasta helps the sauce stick to it a little better. And then we're just going to start adding in spoonfuls of that meat sauce. Mix it up. We're looking for a little thinner of a consistency. That way the pasta can bake easier in that sauce. So I'm going to add in that splash of pasta water to make sure this is a little more watery than if we were just eating it like a normal Bolognese. Add a little bit of cheese here to start mixing in a little more layers of salt, and then just keep adding meat sauce until you get the coverage you're looking for. I added probably 3/4 of what I had already made, and now we're just going to transfer this into a 9x13 baking dish. We're going to pat it down so it's kind of evenly spread. You don't really want high points because those will be what burn. I'm going to top it with a little extra of that meat sauce I have left over, a little more Parmesan cheese. We're not looking for this to like really heavily brown like you would with like a baked ziti, but it's good to add a little cheese onto the top. And then we're going to throw this into the oven at 400 degrees for right between 15 and 20 minutes. I'm going to start it in the middle, and the last 5 minutes I'm going to move it up onto the top to just get a little bit of browning. Now here we are right after 20 minutes. You can see that cheese did a little crisping, but it's not heavily burnt or brown like a baked ziti would be. We're going to let this sit for 10-15 minutes to cool down, but look at how great that looks. It looks like your typical baked pasta, but it's a bolognese. I haven't really seen a lot of people do this, which is why I wanted to try it. But the most important thing is how does it taste. So we're going to get a nice big spoonful of this out, throw it into a bowl. As I always say, baked pastas don't really look great in bowls, but you can see from the dish, it's not watery, there's no extra liquid, so that extra you added in to make sure the pasta cooked well, it totally absorbed and you don't have this soupy mess. Top it with a little extra cheese and you're good to go. But now the most important thing is how does it taste? Overall, I'd say it's about 25% better than a regular bolognese. I think cooking that pasta in the oven with it, it absorbed a little more flavors. I think this is also a fun way to serve it to a group rather than just like mixing it together. But if you don't have time for this, I don't think you're missing out on a huge amount of that flavor. Regular bolognese is delicious. This is just a little bit better.